All right, MBodied Art Studio followers, I'm going to talk about brushes today. Brushes are our tools to paint. They're so important, and knowing what brush to use, why, what kind of mark it makes is super important when you're painting, because you want to be able to grab the right brush to make the right mark on your canvas. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Tune in and we're going to get started on our different brushes. Yay! All right, so these are my most commonly used brushes when I paint and with my students as well. So how we categorize them is by the shape that they are, and I like to categorize them by kind of like what they do too, the purpose that I use them for. So from left to right, we have Filbert brushes, which are round at the tip, dry brush, which is like really coarse and has shorter bristles and has more surface area at the top too. In the middle, I have an angle brush. Moving on to the right, I have round brushes, or you can call them pointed brushes as well. And then last but not least, I have flat brushes, or I like to call them square brushes as well. All right, so let's talk about the different strokes that these brushes make and why I use them. So starting out with a square brush, also known as the flat brush, you notice that it has a lot of surface area on it. So when you're painting with a brush that has a lot of surface area on it, it's going to take up lots of surface area. All right, so one mark takes up a lot of space. What I love about the square brush though is that it also, when you put a little bit of paint on the tip of it, it also makes like a really, really nice mark. Like a really nice thin mark rather. So when I'm doing straight or thin lines, I really do love the square brush, especially if it's like nice and firm, because I can get a nice thin line and not worry too much about the pressure of my brush. So those are the two reasons I use my square brush. Round brushes or pointed brushes are also nice for making thin lines, and they're also super nice to get different thicknesses of thin lines. So if I push really hard or if I push like a little bit softer, I can get a thinner line. Kind of like a calligraphy brush. They're also super nice for getting some dotted textures, like if you're doing foliage on a tree. These are super nice. The pointed round brush is super nice for getting those type of textures. Angle brushes are really good for getting like really fine edges, and especially if you have something that's curved. I find that there's a lot of control as long as you're, angling it the right way. There's a lot of control with getting that edge, whether it's curved or even if it's straight. So when you move it around, you have to twist it around, but I find that that edge, whatever I'm painting next to, whatever edge I'm painting next to, usually I can get it really smooth with the angle brush. I also like to use the angle brush for textures, like with evergreens. Let's pretend this is like a sideways evergreen. If I hold it on the correct angle and angle it downwards, just a little bit, then I find that I can get kind of like that pine texture, and whatever else you might need to use this for too. Like maybe you're using this for waves, hair. It's a way to take up a lot of surface area really quickly too. My dry brush, which also has a round tip but coarser hair, is really nice for getting cloud-like textures. So I actually don't use any water with this brush, and I kind of do this like circular motion with it to get kind of like a fuzzy type of feel. See that with more paint on it. And then last but not least, I have my Filbert brush. What separates it from the square brush, because it also has a lot of surface area on it, is that it's going to leave a round mark at the end. So you can see the difference here, and here we have a straight mark, and here we have a round mark. So that's nice if you want to have like edges that are round for whatever reason on the end of your brush strokes. But what I really like to use the Filbert brush for is blending, especially when I have something that's like, you know, maybe has a round edge to it. I feel like with the blending, I can also move in like different directions and soften it that way, and also has a lot of surface area, which is nice for blending as well. Which you can also, if you want to know more about blending, you can also catch that in my gradient video tutorial on our Embodied Art Studio page. Knowing what brush to use for certain areas of your painting, I hope that you find really empowering after watching this video. Let's use a nice pointed brush, small one, and I'm gonna write down which brushes we use for each section here. And I want you to take a screenshot so that you can forever have a picture knowing what each of these different types of brushes do with paint on your canvas. Here it is. Take a screenshot so you can remember it forever. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you found this tutorial really useful. We are Embodied Art Studio. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you ring the bell so you get notifications when we post more beginner acrylic painting tips. And if you ever have anything you want to learn, comment below. We love seeing what you guys want to learn about. And my name is Shannon, and I hope everyone has a colorful rest of their week.